In this video, we're going to talk about graphing hyperbolas. So here's what our hyperbola looks like. It's the two parabolas. And just like ellipse, we have a horizontal version and a vertical version. This one is our horizontal. This one is our vertical because of where the parabolas are. The parabolas are left and right, so that's horizontal. Up and down, that's vertical. Now you have this whole table to help you look at where the different pieces come from, but do not sit here and try to memorize this table. I will show you how to do it graphically, but there are a couple things we need to make note of. So the difference between horizontal and vertical is different than it was for ellipse. Instead of A and B switching places, X and Y switch places. So X comes first in horizontal and Y comes first in vertical. The other thing that's different is how to find C. In ellipse, it was a squared minus b squared. Now it's a squared plus b squared. So this one, in fact, is Pythagorean theorem. You find your foci the same exact way, so we'll do the same thing there. But we do have an ellipse equation an asymptote equation this time, which is the point slope formula. So the y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. It's easier to memorize this one equation for both of these than to sit here and memorize which one's A over B and which one's B over A. So let's go ahead and look at a graph. So number one, the first thing I need to decide is it horizontal or vertical? Since X comes first, that's horizontal. Now I'm going to figure out A, B, and C before I get started with any graph. A is the first number, so 7. B is the second number, that's 6. Now we'll find C using our normal Pythagorean theorem. Square root 49 plus this time. And 49 and 36 is 85. Again, when I'm asking you to do this without a calculator, I will have a pretty square rootable number. But for right now, I'll go ahead and tell you this is 9.2. You will not have a calculator on this section. Center, we find the same way from the X and the Y. So that's -2, 1. Now we have two new things called the transverse axis and the conjugate axis. Your transverse axis is your major axis. Your conjugate axis is your minor axis. That's not right. Erase that. Your transverse axis is what's between the vertices. Your conjugate axis is the other one. Okay, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. So if I come to my graph, I'm going to go ahead and plot my center, -2, 1. So there's the center of our graph. Now I'm going to draw a box around where the transverse axis and the conjugate axis goes. So you'll notice here's our transverse, here's our conjugate. Here's our transverse between the vertices, here's our conjugate. So I'm going to go horizontal is the A value. So the 7 goes with X. So I'm going left and right 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll put a mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Put a mark. And then the 6 came from the Y value. So you're going up and down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now I'm going to draw a dotted line imaginary box around this center point. Okay, now because we said this is horizontal, your parabolas are going on this side of the box. To figure out how wide to draw them, I'm first going to draw on the asymptotes that create that X shape. So going from corner to corner and through the center. So now along the line for the center, I'll put a point for my parabola. And I'm doing it left and right, again, because we know this is a horizontal hyperbola. Okay, and there's the whole graph of your hyperbola minus the foci, but now we can go ahead and answer majority of our questions. So the length of the transverse axis is what goes from vertice to vertice. That's our A value, so that'll be 14. Conjugate axis is what's going to go up and down here. That's our B value, so that's 12. Now the vertices, up here it gives you a whole formula to find them, but when you graph it, you can see where it is. So this one is at negative 9, 1. And the other one is at 5, 1. Last step is foci. We do this the same exact way that we did ellipse. Since it's horizontal, I'm adding and subtracting the C value to the horizontal term, the X term. If it was vertical, I would add and subtract the C value to the Y term. But we're doing horizontal, so I'm going to leave the 1 and add and subtract 9.2 to negative 2. I'm going to add first, so negative 2 plus 9.2 is 7.2. Leave the 1 alone. Negative 2 minus 9.2, negative 11.2, leave the 1 alone. We had X values because it was horizontal. Now I'm going to do the equation of my asymptotes. You always use the center point for your x1 and y1, and then we're just going to count the slope, rise or run. We have 2 asymptotes. Now we're not going to write 2 equations because the only difference in the equation of these asymptotes is one is increasing and one is decreasing. They will have the exact same slope. That's why we just write plus or minus. So I'm going to do y minus, the y value is 1. M is the slope, so let's count the slope. It is going to be up 6 over 7. So 6/7. X minus negative 2, so that makes it plus 2. Now again, that's only one asymptote. To show both, I'm saying plus or minus 6/7, because one is positive 6/7, one is negative 6/7. And then you're done with your hyperbola. Let's turn the page and try another one. So now, remember, the first thing we need to decide is this horizontal or vertical? X comes first, so we are saying horizontal. And let's solve for A, B, and C. A is the first number, so 5. B is 6. Let's solve for C. Square root of A squared minus B squared. So the plus, 25 plus 36. That's the square root of 61, love that. That's 7.8. Okay. Let's keep going. Find the center. There's nothing added or subtracted here, so the center is 0, 0. Let's go ahead and plot, draw our box, do all the things. So let's go 0, 0. And then it's horizontal. So my parabolas are going to be left and right. The 5 came from the X value, so I'm going left and right 5. Mark, mark. The 6 came from the Y value, so I'm going up and down 6. And I'm going to draw my box. Let's draw in our asymptotes. And now I'll draw my parabolas. Horizontal, so they're on the left and the right. Okay, let's fill in the rest of our blanks. Transverse axis, so the distance between the vertices and the center, aka 2A, is 10. Conjugate is 12. Let's talk about where the vertices are. We just look at our graph. So negative 5, 0. And 5, 0. For the foci, I am going to add and subtract 7.8 from the x value. I'm doing the x value because it's horizontal. So let's add it first. This is easy because we're just adding it to 0. So 7.8 and negative 7.8. Ooh, something I forgot to do on the last graph. We need to actually plot the foci. And if you look at our parent graphs here, it's different because the foci are actually within the parabola, so outside the center and the vertice. So we'll put them at 7.8 and negative 7.8. Okay, equation of the asymptotes. Y minus, y1 is 0, so I'm not going to write that. I'm going ahead and say equals, plus or minus, because one's positive, one's negative. Let's count rise over run. So up 6 over 5. And then x minus x1, but x1 is 0, so we'll just say x. Ask your neighbor if they're okay. Are they good? Did you ask them? Okay. We'll do one more together. Let's look at number 3. This one is vertical. I knew it was vertical because the y value came first. A is 5, B is 3. Now remember, A isn't necessarily the bigger number or smaller number. A just comes first, B comes second. So to find C, A squared plus B squared, that's 34. The square root of 34 is 5.8. Okay, my center. Now here's where the vertical ones are going to trick you because it switches spots, so be careful. The x value is 5, the y value is 0. Do not get those switched. To graph, I'm going to plot that center, so 5, 0. Now my 5 came from the y, so I'm going up and down 5. My 3 came from the x, so I'm going left and right 3. And then draw your box. Draw in your asymptotes. Now my vertices are on the top and the bottom because it's vertical. So here and here. And we're ready to answer our questions. So transverse axis, up and down is a length of 10. 2A is 10, 2B will be 6, left and right is 6. My vertices, figure out where those are. 5, 5, 5, negative 5. Now my foci, so this 5.8, I'm going to add and subtract it to the y value because it's vertical, which will be easy because it's just 0. So leave the 5 alone, add and subtract 5.8 to 0. It doesn't matter which one you do first because we're going to draw both of them. So let's go ahead and plot those before we forget. 5.8, negative 5.8. Lastly, the equation of the asymptote. So y minus y1, well, y is 0, so I'm going to put y equals plus or minus for our positive and our negative. Let's count rise over run. Up 5 over 3. And then x minus x1. We do have an x1. She's 5. All right, you have to do number 4 for homework. Help your sisters out, work together. Try really hard to do this without referring to the table, except for maybe this section and this section. You really don't want to have to memorize all this stuff. You want to be able to do it just by graphing. Okay, bye.